Namaste, guys. ChristianRLong, Life Enhancement Consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this Friday evening. It's right about, I think, 4:30-ish p.m. here in Denver, Colorado, so 4:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Just finished my healing clients for the day. I want to jump on and do a live stream. Hey, Kenny, Namaste. And as you guys know, we've been doing live streams every day from the beginning of the year. Amy, Namaste. So we're going to keep doing live streams throughout the entire year on 3 areas of interest: energy, healing, meditation, and practical spirituality. But I have a special twist and a special request. A client and a long friend of mine, an acquaintance, because we don't, hang out on the regular, is my friend Tawny Blake, and she was reading this past week's newsletter. So every Wednesday night I put out a newsletter, a quote by my teacher, Grandmaster Cho Koksui, the modern founder of pranic healing and Hatha yoga. And then with that quote, I kind of break it down and what this quote means to me, what it can mean to you, and how you can apply the teachings into your life to improve the quality of your life, right? So she happened to take a little excerpt out of the newsletter and put it into her onto her page, and I thought, oh, that was really cool. Little promotion, little cooperative dynamics, all that in a bag of chips. And her specialty, she has a company called Flirt Denver, where she helps singles within Denver, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, find love. Hey, Kate, Namaste. Marvin, Namaste. And with the post that she did from the quote that I had, I noticed several men were chiming in, several women were chiming in, and they were talking about, hey, Mark, Namaste. They were talking about, wouldn't it be nice to have this kind of conversation about vulnerability? And then I thought to myself, vulnerability. Now, you guys may or may not know this, but for 14 years, it'll be 15 years in 2 months that I've been a professional energy healer within pranic healing. So I've been doing that for a very long time. It's my life's purpose. It's what I am very good at. It's what I am highly trained at. Again, not because I'm this great healer naturally, but because I have a great teacher and a great system behind me that I follow to the best of my abilities. So I've been doing that for 15 years. The thing that I know second most about in my life are the social dynamics between men and women. Why? Because in the early part of my life, meaning from being born to about, 30 years old, horrible with women. Horrible in relationships, couldn't understand women, couldn't understand why they did what they did, why they didn't do what they did, what I could do to be a better individual, a better partner, a better lover, a better anything and everything. It was completely and utterly foreign to me, and at this time, there wasn't a big manosphere on the internet where men would come together and share ideas about how to be better in relationships. It was just like, if you had a friend that was good with women, that's the guy that you plugged in with. I didn't have any of those friends. And my brothers were definitely not examples of what to follow and how to have a healthy, sustainable relationship. So I pretty much, Tirza, Namaste, I pretty much went out on my own. A friend of mine introduced me to this book called The Game, written by Neil Strauss. And I ended up reading that book when I was still in my marriage, which was very rocky at that time. And then the marriage eventually ended. Leanne, Namaste. But that book was a pivotal moment for me to move my life forward into the relationship, into being successful in relationships. Now you might be saying, well, what does it mean to be successful with relationships? Well, that is relative to the different sexes, and it's also relative to the individual at certain time periods of their life. Meaning, some people consider a successful relationship of being able, as a man, being able to sleep with a bunch of women. For that guy, that's a successful relationship. Another guy is like wanting to find the ideal wife and to be with her from 20 years old until they both retire and die. That's a successful relationship. For a woman, she wants to travel the world and have experiences with different men, different backgrounds. That's exciting, and that's an ideal relationship for her, right? Elena, Namaste. So there's different definitions of how we define a successful relationship. I knew from where I was at that point in my life that I'd been an utter failure in relationships with women up until about 30 years old. A little bit before 30, up until about 30 years old. And then I read the book The Game by Neil Strauss, it opened up my eyes. And what do I mean by open up my eyes? So being a professional energy healer for 14, almost 15 years now, I remember, Amanda, I'm going to say, I remember learning about the chakras for the first time. These spinning energy centers of light that influence my physical body, my emotional body, my mental body, or my feelings and my thoughts, and my spiritual body. Prior to knowing about these things called chakras, I was in the dark about it. I was in the dark on how these things influence my life. So it's the same thing with reading this book called The Game about relationships. I was completely in the dark about relationships, but all I needed was that little itty bitty tiny seed to spark my awareness into the direction of being successful with women and the social dynamics between men and women, and it changed my life. Now at this point, I've been studying social dynamics for about 8 years, and I've been through the gambit of life experiences, married, divorced, all kinds of sexual interactions, intimate interactions. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of successes, right? And what I noticed, and one thing I can share with you guys that I think you'll appreciate relating it to today's topic on why men aren't vulnerable in the relationships, is very simple. Because women are always seeking men to be more vulnerable. Why won't he open up? Why won't he share with me what's on his mind, what's on his heart, what's going on in his world? Well, there's a couple reasons as to why that is. When a man opens himself up, when a man exposes where he's at in his life and a challenge that he's facing in his life, and a big reason why I'm choosing today's topic is because a client of mine brought this up in today's healing, is when a man is vulnerable, what he does is he shows weakness to his partner. And you might be saying, well, wait a minute. You're saying the guy has to suppress his needs, wants, and desires, or he has to suppress his fears about life, his fears about the economy, or his job, or his career, or whatever. He has to suppress that? No, he doesn't have to suppress it. My recommendation is for a man that is going through a very difficult time in his life, do not ever put that on the shoulders of his girlfriend, his wife, or his significant other. Put it on the shoulders of a professional, put it on the shoulders of his guy friends, put it on the shoulders of his higher self, meaning instead of going out, go up, right? Which would require learning how to meditate, learning how to connect to the higher self, learning how to be still, learning how to be aware, etc. Why? Because a woman, in general, everybody, right? I don't make blanket statements. I'm saying in general, women like security, like safety, like stability, like predictability. Yes, in general, most women are like that. Well, if the guy that she's with is experiencing doubts, fears, worries, concerns about their relationship, about something going on at work, about something going on with a family member, about something dealing with his health, right? And he shares that with the woman. What's the tendency of the woman going to be? Is she going to worry less about it? Is she going to worry more about it? Most likely she's going to worry more about it. Is she going to catch herself bonding closer to her partner, or the tendency to pull away from her partner, right? Because if a woman is seeking stability, security, predictability, and safety, right, and she realizes that the guy that she's currently with, there could be a potential threat to that predictability, safety, etc., then she's going to gradually, or in some cases outright, flee the situation and be somewhere else. That is in general why men are not vulnerable in their relationships. And also, because of the way our society is built up, we don't give permission for other men to support other men, right? And what do I mean by that? Back in the 50s, in the 60s, there were many different organizations that were specifically just for men, for teenage men. Ramesh, Abba Namaste. There were organizations for teenage men with the Boy Scouts or even younger, teenage men, college men with fraternities. Then you had different kinds of country clubs, different kinds of institutions where men could go and talk about men issues and talk about men things and get that support that they need from other men without being ostracized, without being judged, without being seen as weak, without being infiltrated by other feminine energies that are feeling that's a threat to them and their resources and what have you. But now in 2018, we don't really have those places to go except the internet, specifically YouTube. You guys might not know this, but 80% of the viewers on YouTube are men. 80% of the viewers on YouTube are men, because men are going somewhere they can get mentorship, somewhere they can get guidance, somewhere that they can throw out their problems, their challenges, their concerns, and get feedback without that person leaving them or without that person feeling threatened, right? Because just because somebody has an issue with something, Raluka, Atma Namaste, doesn't mean it's a problem all the time. So if a guy is having doubts about his relationship with his partner, it doesn't mean that the relationship is ending, right? It simply means that there's a block, there's an obstacle, there's a blind spot. Foxy, Atma Namaste, there's a weakness in the relationship, and what do guys typically want to do? We want to solve problems. But when you have a problem being brought out to your female partner, your spouse, girlfriend, what have you, she sees that as a threat, not as something that, okay, let's get together and let's figure out how to solve this problem. And I've noticed men are looking for realness in their relationships. You go, well, what do you mean realness? Exactly that. I remember reading a comment on YouTube about one guy started the thread and then many people added to the comment, is that there's so much, Dean, Abba Namaste, there's so much falsehood, Pat, Abba Namaste, there's so much falsehood, there's so much deception, there's so much manipulation, there's so much untruth that's in relationships that rather than men and women working together, harmonizing together, collaborating together as partners, it's more of this, how can I get the most out of you before you get the most out of me, right? And I remember one of my spiritual teachers many, many years ago says, a relationship is not 50-50, a relationship is 100% on your back, meaning you give 100% of who you are to the other person. But how many of us actually practice that? Because we're so guarded about our thoughts, about our feelings, about our fears, our worries, our concerns, that by voicing those, the other person has a tendency to withdraw. The other person has a tendency to pull back. Hey, Pink, Abba Namaste, long time, right? Does that make sense? So that's a big reason as to why men are not vulnerable in their relationships, because by being vulnerable, it shows weakness from their partner, and then their partner either gradually or quickly pulls away from that connection because she doesn't want to feel unsafe, unprotected, unstable in their relationship. And men are looking for realness. I can't emphasize that enough. Men are looking for realness. What do I mean by that in a personal example? So I've had many women in my life tell me that they love me, they would do anything for me, right? So I look at how they show up and I look at what they say, and they don't always connect with one another. For instance, an ex of mine was talking about how I'm the one, how she wants to spend the rest of her life with me and is willing to wait, right? In the process of her saying those things, she's on Tinder, she's on Bumble, she's going on dates with other guys, kissing other guys, and doing all these things, quote unquote, without me knowing. I guess the fortunate, maybe not so fortunate thing in my world is because I'm an empath, because I'm sensitive, because I can see energy when I connect with people, I know what's true and what's not true. Not in all cases, but so far I have a pretty high batting average at this point. So that's what I talk about realness. This person was saying one thing and doing something else. So there's no realness, there's no depth, there's no trust, there's no authenticity. So I always say to people, you attract to you what you are, not what you want. You attract to what you are, not what you want. So as I reflected on myself, I go, am I a committed person? Am I a trustworthy person? Am I the kind of person, am I the kind of person that would do the things that this person is doing that I don't like? And I realized, yes, that was the case. I was doing those things. I wasn't being trustworthy. I wasn't being committed. I wasn't being, not that my words and my actions were not congruent with one another, but there was too many misunderstandings between me and the other person. So things were not being seen clearly. So I hope that brings a little bit of insight and a little bit of clarity for especially the women that are watching as to, you want men to be vulnerable, not for the sake of wanting to be there for them and to necessarily help them. You're wanting them to be vulnerable so you know if there's anything that's at risk of destroying the relationship. Now, for any of the female viewers and watchers of this stream, feel free to put in the comment section below what your feedback is. Christian, you don't know what you're talking about. Christian, you're crazy. You're wrong. You're misogynist. You're whatever. That's fine. Also, this topic alone I'm bringing up, I follow this guy on YouTube called Coach Red Pill. And he had a very, very interesting video I saw a couple days ago called Radioactive Ideas. Radioactive Ideas. And I was like, radioactive ideas, that's kind of interesting. Let me look into that a little bit. And in Pranic Healing and Arhatic Yoga, Grandmaster Choa Koksui has in one of his sutra books, like it's a little tiny book with different aphorisms or quotations about different spiritual principles. And what I really, really liked about, and I'm paraphrasing the teacher because I don't have the quote in front of me, but he says for an Arhatic yogi, which is the yoga that we practice, Arhatic yoga, he says for an Arhatic yogi, nothing is taboo from research and understanding. Meaning there is no subject that somebody cannot dive into to understand the facts and the reality of the matter versus, I don't want to hear that, it triggers me, it upsets me, it puts me in an emotional state, and there's no level of depth, right? So, and Stephanie says, right on the money, I often ask to myself why I'm upset about the situation and realize I'm doing exactly the same thing. Yes. So that goes, and that's a beautiful tie-in, Stephanie, by the way. I don't know if I call you Pink or Stephanie. I forgot how we did this last time. That's an excellent point, because if you have two people that have a level of self-awareness, that have a level of responsibility for their thoughts, their feelings, and their actions, then the likelihood of a relationship working out is much, much better. But if either is fine, okay. But if both people lack awareness, lack responsibility, and they want to make everything wrong about the other person and everything good about them and play this victim-perpetrator connection, the relationship's never going to work. It's going to be nothing but drama and chaos. So again, you have two unconscious people coming together, you have an unconscious relationship. You have two conscious people coming together, you have a conscious relationship. But because we're so focused on the material world and we're not focused on going within, look at the state of affairs and relationships in 2018, or actually 2019. So, going back to the radioactive idea by Coach Red Pill. He says there are certain things that if you bring this up in a social context, you will be ostracized socially by your peer group because they won't want to listen to it. Patty, namaste, long time. Hope you're doing well. People want to hear that, right? If you bring up a radioactive idea, people want to avoid it at all costs. But think about that. Why would somebody want to avoid studying something that is accurate? Why would somebody want to avoid studying something that is true just because it makes them feel uncomfortable, it makes them feel upset? I'll give you an example of a radioactive idea. I thought about this idea right before jumping on to today's stream. So, a radioactive idea is that women physically abuse their children more than men do. Mothers physically abuse their children more than the fathers do. That is a fact. It is a provable fact. You can look it up online. I don't have the link to put it in the comments section right now. But that is a provable fact that's a radioactive idea, because nobody would want to talk about that. Because how do we perceive women to be almost throughout the entire world? We see them as loving, we see them as nurturing, we see them as caregivers, we see them as more compassionate than men. So then why is that the statistic? Why is it that mothers physically injure and kill their children more so than fathers? So that's a radioactive idea, that if you go deeper into it, you can have a deeper level of understanding, a broader perspective. But what do most people do with radioactive ideas? They don't want to hear it, right? They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to discuss it. They want to deny it. They want to be like the ostrich that puts their head in the sand. And they're missing out on truth. They're missing out on opportunities, because truth will set you free, right? Truth will set you free. Truth is empowering. Truth is liberating. Truth allows you to operate from a higher viewpoint, right? So why would we want to deny truth? Why would we want to push away truth? Why would we want to stay in the darkness? Why would we want to be ignorant? And actually, it wouldn't be ignorance, because ignorance is not knowing something. It would actually be stupidity, because stupidity is knowing something and then doing contrary to that. So I'm all about negative self-pride. Correct. Yeah. I'm all about knowing the truth. I may not agree with the truth. I may not like what I hear with the truth. But if it is the truth and it is provable, then that means I can improve my viewpoint in life. So Prashant says, at least on subconscious and unconscious level. Yeah. So what is negative pride? Because he's saying negative pride or negative self-pride. So negative pride, Brandy, Atma Namaste. Negative pride is an energy that shields our low self-esteem, our low self-image, and our low self-worth. Right? That's what negative pride does. So negative pride is covering up those things about ourselves, the darkness about ourselves that we don't want to face, that we don't want to acknowledge, that we don't want to heal, that we don't want to move forward in, that makes us feel uncomfortable and keeps us stuck. It keeps us in a rut. And we're all at negative pride levels to one degree or another. Kareen, Atma Namaste. Good to have you back on. That makes sense? So there's protocols within pranic healing and our Hatha Yoga to disintegrate and extract negative pride out of one's system, and then give them a greater sense of humility. And when you have more humility, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, your self-image goes up, your self-esteem goes up, and your self-worth goes up. Robert, Atma Namaste. Good to have you on. So the takeaway from today's talk, give an example as how that would show up. Okay, how does negative pride show up? So negative pride would show up, it can show up in two different ways. One, you think you're better at something than you actually are. So let's say I'm really bad at basketball, which is accurate. This body is not good at basketball. Not coordinated enough, not trained enough, not interested enough, not good at basketball. But if I had friends of mine that were looking to put together an extra person on their team, and they said to me, hey, do you play basketball? I'd be like, yeah, I play it occasionally. Never played at all. Yeah, I play it occasionally. And then they go, well, are you any good? Yeah, I'd say probably decent, intermediate, not good at all. That would be an example of negative pride, right? Because I'm not acknowledging where I'm at to other people. I'm using it to shield my low self-esteem around being a basketball player. Now, how does negative pride look reverse of that? Let's say, Sharak, Atma Namaste, let's say I'm super, let's say I'm super good at math. Like I'm a math genius. I'm a wizard in math. I can do all the calculations in my head. I'm like a prodigy, right? And then I get some invite to a math competition where the competition I could win $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, or I could win a full ride scholarship to some college, some university. Inside of me, I'm gonna go, no, I'm not that kind of person. I don't like to show off my to show off my skills, right? And they retract. Why are they retracting? They're good at it, right? But they're not showing it off, and they're not using it to propel and accelerate their life. Why? Because they have low self-esteem, low self-worth, and low self-image. So they have the skill set, they have the ability, but they're not owning and recognizing that ability. You ever compliment somebody who's really good at something and they don't own it? They're like, no, it's, I don't know, I'm not really that good at it, right? That's also a form of negative pride. So there's two sides of the coin. One side is you say or you come across better at something than you actually are, or you're very, very good at something and you take zero credit for it and you don't acknowledge that. So that's how negative pride can show up from one end of the spectrum to the other. That makes sense? It's very, very ninja-like, and we have negative pride in pretty much every area of our life. Right? We have negative pride in our relationships. We have negative pride in our health. We have negative pride in our intelligence. We have negative pride in our finances. We have negative pride in our spiritual growth and development. We have negative pride in our sexuality. We have negative pride in where we grew up. Right? Negative pride is this all-permeating energy that through a process of awareness, healing, meditation, we can develop humility. We can develop humility. What is humility? Humility is knowing what our strengths are. I'm really good at math. And knowing what our weaknesses are. I'm not good at basketball. IE says negative pride in the form of false humility. Yes, exactly. False humility, correct. IE says negative pride serves as a crutch. It serves as self-defense mechanism for some time when, hold on guys, it's a big one. When the person grows and matures, eventually she becomes aware of this, and by the time that usually is ready to let go of those things which no longer serve them, such as negative pride, to be more aligned with her essence, higher self, true self. Correct. So by having negative pride, it prevents us from seeing reality, it prevents us from seeing things as they are, and it prevents us from being in alignment with our higher selves. But as we grow and mature as souls, we let go of more and more and more of our negative pride, improve our self-image, our self-esteem, our self-worth, and we become in greater alignment with the higher self. Because look, you can't be good at everything. You can't be good at everything. But we have that expectation on ourselves and or on our partners. Our partner is supposed to be our partner is supposed to be the most intelligent person we know, the funniest person we know, the wealthiest person we know, the best looking person we know, the best person in bed that we know, the best person, right? We put all those expectations on the other person, and then we're disappointed. And then we go try to seek out somebody else, and the cycle goes round and around and around and around and around, right? It's very unfortunate. Paul is bringing the heat all the way from Alabama. So does that make sense? So we kind of covered several topics today. Why men are not vulnerable in their relationships. Why negative pride prevents us from seeing the world as it is. Why avoiding difficult truths keeps us stuck in our lives. And what can we do to resolve that? So what we can do to resolve that: get healing, do your meditation practice regularly, ask for divine guidance, talk to the right people who can help you get to where you want to go, and humility, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not good at. Make sense? So I hope Tawny is able to watch this live stream, and I hope her followers on her Facebook page or clients of hers from Flirt Denver get value out of today's talk. Again, this is a topic, social dynamics between men and women, that I've studied extensively for 8 years, of short-term dating, long-term dating, marriage, divorce, death, all of it. And I've become a better person because of it, and my viewpoints have changed considerably. And when we talk about radioactive ideas, I'm all about it. I'm all about, hey Jessica, I'm all about talking about radioactive ideas. I'm all about, hey Jennifer, Atma Namaste, all about talking about the things that are difficult for people to talk about. Because I'm not here to appease, I'm not here to be appeased or placated or have my head in the sand. I want truth for truth's sake. I want truth so I can be in alignment with the greater good and with my higher self. And we talked about what the radioactive ideas were. And there are many, 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 many radioactive ideas. The difficult ideas that everyone wants to stay away from. And a question is, that was posed in the video by Coach Red Pill. He says, you want to know what a radioactive idea is? It's the idea that if you say it in public, everyone gets really, really quiet. Everyone gets really, really quiet. And again, I'm talking about radioactive ideas that are true. I'm not talking about saying something to offend somebody. I'm saying something that if it is true, understand why it is true. Instead of, again, being like the ostrich and putting your head in the sand. Which, funny enough, an ostrich actually doesn't put their head in the sand. They just bring their head lower to the ground. They don't actually put their head in the sand. That's a misnomer. That's it, guys. So if you are in need of healing, if you would like healing around negative pride, if you would like to improve your level of humility, if you would like to learn to be vulnerable in a healthy, productive way, then you can go to ChristianRLong.com/services, ChristianRLong.com/services, and sign up for a distant coaching pranic healing session. In 60 minutes, we cover both. In 60 minutes, we do 30 minutes of coaching, 30 minutes of healing around what we learned in the coaching session to transform your life. And Jennifer was asking an example of a radioactive idea. So I'll just use the example that I used earlier, Jennifer, for simplicity's sake. So there's a true statement that women, mothers, injure and kill their children more often than fathers do. That's a radioactive idea, meaning it's very uncomfortable to hear. There's going to be a lot of pushback, a lot of resistance, and a lot of denial about that, but it's a provable fact of what I just said. You can look it up online. So that would be an example of why not study and understand that? Why is that happening in our society? Dean says, thanks for sharing your time with us today, Christian Long. May your life be divinely blessed by the Supreme Being and MCKS today and always Atma Namaste. So be it. So be it. So be it. Thank you, Dean, very much. Many blessings back to you as well from God and the great ones and the teacher. And that's it, guys. So lots of light, love, and power on this beautiful Friday. Hope you have an amazing weekend. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. We can come up with a new topic if you like. If you have an idea for a topic, put it in the comments section below and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Hey, Nina, you came late to the party, girl. You're going to have to check it out later. All right, guys, this is ChristianRLong, Life Enhancement Consultant, wishing you a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and a beautiful life. Atma Namaste. Bye-bye.